Hey everybody, Pastor Hans here, and thank you for tuning in one more day for our study on Revelation. Here's my question for you. Have you watched the news lately? If you have, you've probably thought the same thing that I think when I watch the news. Our world, it's a mess. Doesn't it seem like it's one story after another about some corrupt politician or one more fallen superstar or one more greedy corporate executive who did that unconscionable thing? It's stories about evil dictators hell-bent on power, corporations destroying our planet in order to make the almighty dollar. I mean, let's be honest. If you watch the news, doesn't it seem like the corrupt, the powerful, they always seem to have the upper hand? Well, as we look at Revelation chapter 18, I imagine that was a case for those who first read these words some 2,000 years ago. We've been walking through the book of Revelation, and if you have made it now with us to chapter 18, you are aware by now that Revelation is a letter that John is writing to 7 churches, and these churches have all been experiencing persecution under the evil, powerful, corrupt hand of Rome. He's calling these 7 churches to endure to faithfulness amid all they face, because ultimately they have a God who is faithful. A God who knows that life is hard sometimes and promises that God will be there to the very end and that God will ultimately be victorious over evil and greed and all that opposes God in this world. Again, here's what I want to do. I want to review a little bit. The first half of Revelation, it introduced us to the image of the slain lamb, which is John's image of Jesus, who conquered his enemies. He conquered his enemies by ironically dying for them. And through all the twists and turns, the bizarre literature that we've read, the first half of Revelation, it would have been seen sort of as encouragement to these 7 churches. They would have read it as a unique invitation to follow in this Lamb's footsteps. They too will conquer the beast of Rome by laying down their lives like the Lamb. So as we move now, we've moved into the second half of Revelation. John is now reflecting on the war that the powerful and ugly beasts of Babylon and Rome, that they're waging on God's people. And he wants to paint a picture of how things will ultimately end for God's people. And so in the last chapter, chapter 17, we were given a glimpse how ultimately the powers of this world, they're evil. It has this way of sort of self-destructing. The corruption and greed of Babylon caused Babylon to implode upon itself. The beastly power brokers of this world will choke and drown on their own gluttony and their own greed. And there will be this reversal, chapter 17 told us. And in 18, our chapter for today, we hear in verse 2 these words, "Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great." And then John, he's going to paint a picture of how those who appear to rule today with an iron fist, tomorrow they will be the ones mourning. Verse 9 reads, "The kings of the earth will weep and wail." Verse 11 reads, "The merchants of the earth weep and mourn, since no one buys their cargo of gold, silver, jewels, and pearls anymore." Verse 15 says, "The merchants of these wares will stand far off in fear." 17, "All the shipmasters, seafarers will stand far off and cry out." It's this total reversal. The mighty, the high, the dishonest who seem to wield all the power, the deceitful kings, the disgraceful merchants, deceptive shipmasters, those who wield economic power in this world, those who exploit the poor, those who control the economic and commercial systems that reduce people to what they have, what they do, and how much they provide economic gain. The powerful of this world who dehumanize people for their self-serving faith. They do not have the last say. No, it's the high and mighty who exploit, who will ultimately be the ones who mourn. It's this total reversal. Verse 21 says, "With such violence, Babylon, the great city, will be thrown down and will be found no more." Isn't that what we all hope for, folks? That what we see on television, that there's an end to that story, that there's more for our kids and our grandkids and our great-grandkids, more than corruption and greed and exploitation. John told the 7 churches that in Jesus Christ they have a hope that tomorrow will be different. And the same is true for you and me. So a couple of questions for today. Oh, when we turn on the news, we often say, this world's a mess. Where is that mess most obvious to you? And secondly, John paints a picture of hope and promise that we have in God, that there will be this reversal. What in our world are you eager for God to reverse? Thanks so much for tuning in, folks. We'll see you tomorrow as we dive into chapter 19.